So it's been announced the 26 players that will be representing England at Qatar this, summer, I was about to say, this winter. It's hello from me and hello from little mini-me, suitably attired. We're going to talk about the squad, the omissions, the inclusions. I think we've got a fair bit to talk about. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's time! Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
Well, welcome along. Yeah, like I say, we're going to be looking at the squad, who's in, who's out, who's shaking it all about. We'll be comparing this cup squad to previous ones and see how they compare. Thanks to Sky for all the graphics, saves me doing any work. But first of all, I want your opinions. Let me know who you think should be going that's not going, or who is going that shouldn't be. First of all, though, let's get the thoughts of this man who, when he was asked and his press conference started at 2:00, he didn't actually seem sure that James was in. Let's have a listen, shall we?
Let's go for it. Is embargo that James has made it.
Yeah, well, it's embargoed until it's finished, so yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Discuss.
Yeah.
Has he proved, do you think, simply too good to ignore?
Well, listen, firstly, it's wonderful news for James and his family and everyone, obviously, here at Leicester. I'm also delighted for Gareth, from a coaching perspective, to have that talent available in which is such a great tournament. So, but yeah, I think his level of consistency and the work ethic and the talent and what he's proven over these last few years has swung that sort of decision for him, because he's a fantastic player and one of the best players in the Premier League. So, really, really delighted for him, and obviously, of course, here all his teammates, because without them, then it's difficult to also play to the level that he's been at. One
of his teammates, Timothy Castagna, who we spoke to this morning, said that he felt James had been playing with a little bit of a bit between his teeth, a real desire to...
So, there we go. That was Brendan's thoughts on the matter. He certainly has gone to the Ivan Lendl school of expressions, Brendan, hasn't he? And I think something that was once said about Ivan Lendl could easily be attributed to Brendan Rodgers. You know when he's ejaculated because his right eyebrow goes up. He doesn't let his emotions rule. A saint with a sin. Good evening, sir. How are you? Welcome along. Nice to have you in. Thank God Maddison's in. I'd start him versus Iran. This is something that we're going to be talking about, because he's picked him. Will he play him? If you go by stats and form, he's ahead of Foden and Grealish and Saka. We've been saying that for ages, Saint. I agree 100% with you, but there was one person who didn't. who manages England at the moment. Look, I'd love to say I've got Katie Price in. I haven't, but I have got a couple of double Ds. we've got Dave and we've got Dan. Good evening, gentlemen.
I don't know about you, Dan.
I can't believe he's called us a pair of double Ds when he's the biggest tick going.
I only said it for a laugh. I was just hoping to get a titter.
So did I think.
I think I boomed. If I'm honest. We've got all these jokes to go for, but I would say thank you for your support at the start. But welcome along, guys. Doug's in. Good evening, Doug. How's the haircut going? Hope you are well, sir. And Hayden is in as well. Got to be happy, Hayden, that James has made it. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the squad, shall we? And Dan, first of all, obviously, we talked earlier. Your thoughts on the first thoughts on the squad?
Provisionally okay. I'm glad that, like we've said about Southgate, that he should be picking players on form, on merit. It's good to see Maddison in there. It's like you say, that's the one that asks a million questions. Is he in there because he feels he's pressured by media to put him in there? He's pressured by thousands of fans to put him in there due to the success he's having? Or is he genuinely thought, you know what, I've got to put Maddison in there for the fact that he is playing consistently well and performing and creating chances? So, the Maddison inclusion aside, calling up Rashford, who, yes, Man United aren't tearing the book up in terms of form, but Rashford's found a bit of resilience for himself in that Man United side. For me, a few notable misses in there, shall we say. But all in all, things can change. There is still a game week. You are?
Your missus going as well? Why did you get in the squad?
Well, to be fair, it's like you say, there's a 26-man squad there that we've still got a game week of football to play. Some of these could get knocks, kicks, injuries, and we could see those people that didn't quite make it standing by their phone, anticipating that call. But overall, I think you've got to be sort of semi-happy with the squad.
I'm going to ask you this, Dave, because I asked Steve Lynix this yesterday, and he nearly bit my head off because I said, in the nicest possible way, I'm getting a bit of feedback. I don't know who. I'm hearing myself back on somebody.
That'll probably be me.
It's always the Burnley one, isn't it? Right, you've just been named in that. So you're James Maddison. You've just been named in that squad. And you can see there's a 50-50 tackle coming up against West Ham on Saturday.
Is that any better?
That's better. Yeah, that's great, mate. Cheers. I mean, Dave, do you go in for the tackle or do you hold back? Is that going to be on people, on players' minds? We've seen how many people James Justin might have got in, but he's injured. Chilwell, the same. It's got to be the back of the mind, doesn't it?
I suppose Steve Lynix said, yes, of course you do.
He went mad and said the fact that no, they don't pull out of them.
Yeah. I'd pull him out of the game.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't play against West Ham last year, did he? Or was he year before when they went partying? I wouldn't pick him.
But are we taking off there because we're helping England? We want 3 points.
We're helping Maddison.
We are. But what do you think about that if Newcastle come knocking in the summer, tripling his wages?
He might think, blimey, thanks for helping me. I'll stick around. In fact, we beat Leeds, didn't we, without him?
And you know what? I love your optimism, Dave. Truly. And whatever you're drinking, I'll have a couple of pints of it, please.
It's tea, actually. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, let's have a look in a bit more detail. So, Dan, these are the defenders and the keepers that are going. I think we kind of, those 3 sort of keepers pretty much put themselves in there, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, out of the 4 that were questioned, you've got to say that Henderson misses out. If it again goes back to what we're saying, picking players on form, Ramsdale's in an Arsenal squad, top of the Premier League. Pope is, well, we saw his penalty heroics last night in the Cup against Palace. But, you know, Newcastle are doing really well in the Prem. Pickford, there because he's Southgate's, you know, go-to, potentially. That's the only reason he's in there, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have him. I don't like the bloke. I don't like the way he plays in goal. He's too flash. He's hyper. A goalkeeper needs to have a calm head, especially in a World Cup. And I don't see that with him. All our best goalkeepers have been calm. You know, Shilton, Banks, Seaman, you know, you go through them all, Clements, Jennings, not English, I know, but the same thing. He was Mr. Laid Back, wasn't he? Probably one of the best keepers in the world. Henderson, sorry, not Henderson, Pickford, you just don't know what he's going to do. And I can't see it.
But I mean, this was something, Dave, that we discussed earlier on Dan's channel and Turf Moorhouse TV. It's a good show. If you missed it, go and check it out. And we said this. I said this. Sometimes a player can be playing bloody awful for his club, but turns up when it comes to England games, and vice versa. You pick players who are absolutely amazing for the club and then just don't do it when they put the England shirt on. And Pickford, and I hate saying this because I'm shooting down my own argument about picking players on form, but Pickford has not really let England down, has he?
No, he hasn't. And we've got 5 other players at least who are in the squad who shouldn't be on form. So, you know, that's why I think that's why we're all surprised to a degree that James Maddison was in, because he's in the best form of his life and anybody's life.
He is, but like you say, that doesn't mean that he was going to be picked.
It just makes me nervous. That's all. Makes me nervous.
Yeah, well, I think we're all. Does it not? And I'll stick with you first with this one, Dave, because the point you've made there that this is probably the first World Cup in a while where we've not gone in thinking we're going to do well. It's coming home and all this, you know. And is that not a good thing in a way?
Well, as long as the players don't think that, as long as it's been played down by our side, so we're not getting too hyper and we'll go stupid, and then when we lose, all hell kicks off. But no, I think you're right. I think our defence is not good enough against the world's top sides. I think, Maguire plays pretty well for England, although I didn't watch those pointless friendlies. I don't know what they were. What was it? The Europa League? Something like that.
Nations League.
Yeah. I couldn't be
Dan,
watching that.
Dan, do you think, same question to you?
It's pretty much like what Dave said, to be fair. I look at these defenders. I look at some of them. In there. Alexander-Arnold should be nowhere near. Conor Cody, I'd rather had Tarkowski, and that's without the claret-tinted glasses. You said it, though, about players being sort of crap at club level, but decent on the international stage. Maguire, I think there's always going to be questions over his head.
And his pace.
Yeah.
That's his only. I thought he'd be not the Bobby Moore, obviously, but he could read the game well. He wouldn't need the pace, but he's been caught out a few times. He was at Leicester. It's certainly the year that we sold him. He had a nightmare season, and he was being beaten all the time. And I just don't think against top sides in a place that's going to be still pretty warm, even if it's air-conned, I don't think he's up to it.
We said that, again, this was something we said earlier as well, is that you should only be taking players that are match fit, not just fit, but match fit, because we're playing in such the heat. But for me, Maguire is a shoo-in. He's got to go because he's never let, as I say, England down. And the problem
if you watch some of them Nation League friendlies, you'll realise he did.
Well, who didn't? This is what we're saying. We're saying, was Harry Maguire the reason we lost or drew or didn't win any of the games.
If you look at one of the games, he was at fault for I think two or three goals in one particular fixture. Gave away a penalty. He weren't marking his man. He was out of position. But then yet again, it's easy to single one player out. You could say that Kyle Walker was out of position for the ball in, and things like that. I don't know. It's tit for tat, and sometimes players can be used as scapegoats. Maybe that's what he is. Maybe that's what he is to people. But
we like to have a player we can pick on and moan about, don't we?
I actually like Harry Maguire. I was sorry when he left Leicester. I think seems a decent bloke. He's a northerner, but that's all right. Sorry.
Yeah, Dave.
But I do like him as a player. I just think you cannot have a season or so like he's had and play in the World Cup for England. I don't see how that works.
But again,
I know what you meant, though, Dave. I know what you meant. It's Yorkshire that's a bit naff.
Yeah. But is with Maguire. Was it a case that, let's say, and I don't follow Man United, obviously, so I don't know what they were playing, and we'll come to everybody's comments on the defenders in a second, but is it not the fact that he was awful, but then so were the other three, let's say back four for argument, so was the other three, Dan? It wasn't just him. It was the whole back line for Man United were bloody awful last season.
You know what's just come to my mind, and I dare say it, and I'm going to involve Maddison in this situation, because sometimes, as you say, regarding players, it's not just down to one man. There's 11 players on that field wearing white or red, whichever they're choosing to wear that fixture. But it comes to something where we as fans say, "Oh, this is shit. Put such and such in midfield. Change that at the back." And these managers do it. And they do it when this team is so out of sorts, so that if it doesn't come off, it's a case of I've got an excuse to I can lynch him off, and it's a reason why he's not going to get called up again. Is that a reason why Maddison's been called up? Because the way England have performed in the Nations League, is it a case of, well, I'll stick him in there, and if it goes tits up, I've got someone to blame that everyone's been gloating about and saying is the main thing for.
I agree 100%. I said that about Rodgers and Pratt, to be honest with you, when he's put him on. But I actually was, and this sums it all up for me. I was watching a Harry Redknapp interview last night, and he said when he was managing West Ham, there was a guy behind him that kept saying, let's call the player Jones, whatever. Jones
Lee Chapman.
It was.
Was it? I don't know. I can see if it was, but we'll call him Jones for now. Get Jones on. The player that's playing is bloody rubbish. Get him off. Get this player on. And Harry Redknapp's there thinking no, he's like my fourth choice. I'm not going to play him because he's sort of worse than the guy that's on the field at the moment. And every game he was given in there, and apparently then they had a bit of an illness, a bug or something go through the club, and he had no choice but to play this player called Jones. Puts him on, and apparently he was bloody awful. And the same guy sat behind him shouting, "Get Jones off! Get him off! He's rubbish! What have you put him on for?" And it is managers can't win. We're going to go through the defenders in a second. Let's just catch up with some comment. A good point Doug makes here. Tomori is the big one for me. He should be in there. Has Spurs, good evening. The defenders are awful. Dyer and Maguire make me feel sick. He is Dyer at the moment for Spurs, but again, he's done it for Leicester, for England. I agree. If he's going to the World Cup, I think not to play him because he would get injured, and then Hayden, I'm a bit confused about what you're trying to say there. I think you're going to say if he's going to West Ham.
I think he means Maddison, doesn't he?
Yes, but if he's saying, I agree if he is going to go to the World Cup, I think not to play him because you would get injured and then miss the World Cup.
He means Saturday, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think he does, yeah. Jade, I personally don't think Trent should be going. To be fair, he's not been on his best form and won't get used. I agree, Jade, says Doug. Oh, Liverpool, massive there, you see, sticking together. Henderson is going because he's a leader. Jade, she's agreeing with Doug. Doug's agreeing with Jade. Box, I'd have Tarkowski and Tomori in for Cody and Alexander-Arnold. I'd have had Lewis Dunk instead of Maguire. Don't know, Doug. Don't know. Back 4, back 5. I think Southgate was backed into a corner. Maddison. That is a good point, David. But I'm going to be honest with you. I was watching. Well, I wasn't. I was listening to the Chronicles of Roy Hodgson before they announced the squad. God, if you think Brendan's boring, and he said, you know, he has never been backed into a corner until now. If that's the case, this is the first time he's done it. So I don't know. I'd have Ward-Prowse box. Yeah. Does Tielemans also play with less intensity versus West Ham? Applies to all players. Yes, but we're not talking Belgium. We're talking England, the Saints. So that's why we said about.
It's a good point, though. Good point, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is, and it would apply to all the players. Pickford, Maguire, Phillips, all indifferent at club form, but be solid for England. So yeah, I mean this is the argument. England lack centre back depth. Mings, Maguire takes a good penalty. Maddison is a starter for me. Well, let's have a look at that back four. So have a look at the defenders. Trippier, he's one of these. Got to be one of the first names on the team sheet, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you can. He's having a great season, and I know he's ex-Burnley, but
he's versatile, Chris, as well. He's versatile. You could play him right back, left back, play him, push him forward. So he's got that, he's got a mean cross on him. Absolute mean crossing him. And this is what I mean. People are saying set pieces. James Ward-Prowse. That's all Ward-Prowse offers. If you're going to get someone with set pieces, Trippier's got that as well. We saw it in the final with the free kick he's got. He scored free kicks for Newcastle as well recently. So you don't need too many. Too many in there can upset the apple cart.
Madison. John Stones, happy with him, Dave?
I don't know. I'm just looking at that back four here, and we've only got one left back, haven't we? Is that right? In fact,
Luke Shaw.
Yeah, Luke Shaw. Ben White, right back. Trippier, right back.
Walker, right back.
Yeah,
I can understand why you're a bit iffy with Stones, because he is from Yorkshire and Northern, so I can understand why you're going with that Maguire mentality again, Dave.
maybe he'll go for 3.
I thought they were harder than that. I wouldn't pick Eric Dyer either. He's not a back four player.
Luke Shaw, Dan.
Yeah, I think he's found some form.
Dave's got a habit of jumping about 3 questions ahead, so I'm to pull him back a little bit. Luke Shaw, almost a Leicester player in the summer, allegedly.
Really?
You got to. He can play at left back, can't he?
Yeah, he's naturally a left back.
Yeah,
naturally a left back. Did it at Southampton. Okay, he had his troubles with Mourinho at United, saying he were a bit overweight and stuff like that. I mean, that's not really going to build your confidence as a footballer if your manager's telling you you're a bit of a chubby sod. So, under Ten Hag, he's knuckled down. He seems to be playing quite well on that left hand side, and I think he deserves his spot in the World Cup squad for me.
Well, he's the only left back we got, so.
Oh yeah.
Can't Trippier play left back?
Yeah, Trippier can play left back. In fact, for England, he spent quite a few games playing left back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to put these 3 all together for Dave: Dyer, Maguire, and Alexander-Arnold, because none of them are playing brilliantly, like we said earlier, for their teams.
No.
But have any of them really let England down?
Well, I don't think Dyer's a back four player. He certainly makes too many mistakes, and he's not very good at it. I don't think he's good enough to play for England in any position. He seems to be a favourite, though. So, I don't know. I just think he's been lucky.
Yeah. I mean, he made a bit of a boo-boo at the weekend, didn't he? But
he's done it nearly every week that I've seen. Anyway, it's a regular mistake.
Yeah.
And if you got him and Maguire together there, you could be asking for trouble.
Last 3 here, Dan. Ben White. I mean, I thought Kyle Walker was injured, and then Connor Cody. You know,
yeah,
and if he's injured,
Kyle Walker has got a knock. He's got a bit of a knock, but it must not be too serious, and he might be able to. You know, I don't know whether Gareth's potentially looking at it and thinking he may not play through the group stage, but he should be back and fighting fit if we do get to the round of 16 and stuff. But then that's a little bit unfair because if you've got players that are banging form and you've got a mentality going, to then just stick him in because he's back from injury, it's a bit shitty for me. Ben White does deserve his chance. He's still quite young, but he's found a bit of form at Arsenal. Cody's the one for me that I think is just a bit iffy, a bit dodgy. As I say, a player that gets shipped out on loan by Wolves because he can't sit in a back four, goes to Everton, plays in a back four, and gets the call up ahead of Tarkowski, who was, for me, ahead on stats week in, week out.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this at length earlier. We've done it in the past with Brian Robson, with David Beckham, with Wayne Rooney, where players aren't 100% fit, but they're carrying an injury, but we take them because of the name. I mean, Dave, should any player, if they are injured and we are playing in intense heat over there, should any player, if they are carrying an injury, be included in the squad at all?
Well, not that unless they're that good. Those three are pretty good. We haven't got anybody in the squad that's that good.
But those three, none of them ended up going further than the first couple of games.
No, they didn't. No, so they would say it's a mistake. But then Southgate's picked somebody that's injured, but dropped somebody because they are injured, and they won't make the later stages. Well, won't get to before the later stages. I'm talking crap here. Won't be able to play before the later stages. So Reece James.
Is it bad that I understood what you were trying to say?
Well, that's a slight worry, Chris. That's a worry. But Reece James has not been selected for that reason, I believe, that he might make the latter stages, but not the group games. So how can you do that with him? And how does he feel when he's picking players in the same position like Kyle Walker? Because Kyle Walker's not fit yet.
No, exactly.
And I have to agree on Connor Cody. I thought against Leicester he was dreadful. Really bad. Ben White, definite. Alexander-Arnold, no. But tell me who's going to take their place, because I'm trying to think of. Well,
Tomori for me, Dave.
Tomori,
I mean, his stats say it all. His stats say it all. He's the most consistent English centre back in the four main divisions. Really, it's.
I hope he's not.
Who do you leave out, Dan? Who do you leave out? Let's ask you first. Who do you leave out for Tomori?
Cody.
I would have said Cody. Would you say the same, Dave?
I think I've got him or Dyer.
Yeah,
I think so. The missus is in. Hey, Dan. Good evening, Kate. How the devil are you? Are you looking forward to your trip to Qatar in a couple of weeks? Dan said you were going. Box. It's a shame James Trippier, Chilwell, Shaw would make a really strong full-back unit. They would. I mean, with Tarkowski, and before we move on to the midfielder, Dan, I'll speak to you because obviously you know him from Burnley. You could say, well, he's not really been included in any squad. So, and this is what they said about Callum Wilson. He's in it. It's what they said about Maddison. He's in it. So he could have very easily picked Tarkowski. But again, is it, Everton are having such a, no pun intended, dire season?
But if that's the case, like I said earlier on, Tarkowski has been voted by the fans for the last 2 months as their player of the month. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. Fans are paying good money to see them players perform, and these fans are picking him as a standout player for the month. And there's 11 players to pick from. For the last 2 months, he's got that. So how has Connor Cody got a call up? Tarkowski hasn't. It was only 2 or 3 weeks back, match of the day. We're having an absolute, tug fest over the fact that Tarky should be in that squad. And then it got onto the, that went quiet because it all moved on to the Maddison needs to be in there. And not that it's a case of they shouldn't continue speaking about Tarkowski, but, every position's going to be mentioned. But it's all well and good bringing in one consistent performer, but you've got to do it across the board. You can't just bring one in and think that's going to appease the fans. It's not.
Yeah. Moving on to the midfield and strikers. Let's just quickly run through it. So you got Kane, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden, Saka, Mount, Grealish, Henderson. I suppose they need somebody to sniff the grass, don't they? Rashford, Phillips, Wilson, Maddison, and Conor Gallagher. Dave, does Rashford deserve to be in there? They're all saying, he's come back well, and he's come out of Ronaldo's shadow and all that. I think he scored one goal.
Yes, but he's not had much of a chance. And when he's played, he's in form now, isn't he? He's starting to get back to his old form. I think definitely I would take him without doubt. He's a quality player. He's a good, honest bloke, and I think we need him because that forward line does worry me somewhat. Harry Kane, did I see his manager say he's absolutely shattered or physically?
Yeah, saying he's knackered and tired out.
It's only November, for Christ's sake. What is wrong with them? November. In summer, if we were playing the World Cup in summer, he'd say the same thing.
I think I said early, didn't I, on your show, Dan, that when we were struggling at the start of the season, Brendan Rodgers was spewing bullshit out all over the place, wasn't he? It's the heat, it's that, it's the age, blah, blah, blah. And I just think that what's he called at Tottenham has just discovered the same language. Because I think
there's a difference between, like what you said, Chris. There's a difference between Rodgers coming out and saying the heat, the pitch, it wasn't watered and stuff like that. Conte's coming out and throwing his main star under the bus.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of difference than saying the grass could have been 2 millimeters shorter than saying me forward's knackered.
Yeah.
Well, that's an insult to Harry Kane, I think. You know, I mean, saying the guy's not fit or he's not, doing his job or he's not this, not that. Well,
Kane's got to be in there, though, hasn't he? I mean, at the Euros, it was Sterling with the goals, and I think that's why he's got to be in there. And then it was, Kane's not scoring, and then once he started again, he got 2 or 3. They've both got to be included, Dan, haven't they?
Yeah, of course they have. Like I say, Sterling goes quiet, but then as soon as you get to the international stage, it's like his eyes light up and he just comes alive. See, Sterling, for me, I've never been his biggest fan. Never. I mean, that's going back to when he was younger, though, and he was taking on players 2 or 3 times and then losing it. And I was just thinking, you massive, so-and-so. So he has grown on me as a player. The more he's got older and mellowed out. But on the international stage, sometimes he has got that little bit of trickery up his sleeve and can grab the goals.
Yeah. But he has got more caps than he deserved because he didn't score for about 30, did he, or something? He was getting picked all the time for not scoring goals as a striker.
He was very greedy, wasn't he? Shall we say that politely? He was very greedy, and people were going mad, and he should be passing. It drove me mad, and yet, like you say, I accused him of being greedy in the Euros, and within 2 minutes he scored. So shows what we all know. Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, Dave. You happy with those 2 in?
Yeah, I think so. Rice is pretty solid, isn't he? He can play as a holding midfielder. He works pretty hard, and he's a decent player. I don't think I have a problem with those 2 at all.
No. And Dan, Phil Foden and Saka?
Yeah, Foden at club level has been tremendous. I think him and obviously Haaland had created a bit of an understanding, but whether he can take that and replicate that with Harry Kane in a forward 3, we shall see. Saka, like I said I said earlier, and I'll say it again for people that didn't hear it. What a comeback from having all that shit thrown at you, racial abuse, slurs from everywhere, all over the shop. You're not fit enough to play for England, all because he missed a penalty. As a young player that went to that tournament as well, he shook that off. He's come back with abundance and has been the standout player for Arsenal this season. One of the first names that should have been in this World Cup squad for me. And I think we've not even seen the best of him yet.
Yeah, I mean, we know what he suffered was bad, but at the end of the day, Southgate looked at it and he'd been practicing penalties, and his first 5 players in order were the 5 players that had been scoring penalties and doing it regularly. So he had to be in there, didn't he, Dave? I suppose the argument would be, should he have gone 5th or should he have gone 1st?
Who knows? If you score them all, you're great. It's not the sort of decision I'd like to have to make in a tournament.
No player wants to be 5th, do they? No player wants to be 5th, knowing it could be the decisive penalty. At the end of the day, that adds pressure to you. You know, you've already got to question yourself, which way am I putting it, and don't change your mind. So to then think, if I don't score though, there's a good chance I'm not going to win it here, and it can just get to you. So, and as I say, as a young lad, to take that pressure, do it, and the whole of the nation sort of rally behind him in support, apart from the odd, idiotic fan base. To see him grow as a player and grow as a person, and mature in that sense.
That's
I think
what's needed, isn't it, Dan? You need that
to
be an international, and he showed he's got it, and that's going to keep him in good stead.
It goes back to what you said, Dave, about Declan Rice as well. We've seen Declan Rice at West Ham, come off after games going, "Ref, what's all that about? Blah blah blah." We need someone like that will be like, "I've got this England shirt on." I don't know. I see a little bit of Gaza in Declan Rice in terms of his passion for it.
I think just going back to Saka and penalties, though, I suppose you do want you want your most experienced player taking the 5th penalty. So that is going to be Harry Kane.
Yeah,
because Saka goes first and misses it. All right, but it's not the end of the world. It might give the opposition a bit of a G up if they score theirs, but it can still be saved. So maybe he just got it the wrong way around, but he was doing the right thing in putting the players on that had been scoring the penalties in training.
But Dave, I always sorry, Chris. I always relate back to Vardy. I can't remember which league game it was. Vardy was on the bench, and he came on. He hadn't had a touch, and we got a penalty. He came on, took the penalty, and missed it. Yeah. Now, everybody says, "Oh no, Vardy wouldn't do," but it must have some effect on you. You've not kicked a ball yet.
Yeah.
Your first kick is to take a penalty. These kids were on for what, 5 minutes, something like that, 10 minutes maybe. Didn't get a kick hardly, and at their age, you're expected to take a penalty in a final. With our track record as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dave, Mount and Grealish. I thought Mount was another one that was carrying an injury.
Well, he's been pretty impressive, hasn't he? I think when he's come on, but I don't know if he's played that many hours, has he? Or minutes? I'm not sure. Seems to be on the bench a lot, from what I remember. I mean, I might be wrong, but I just seem to think that. Grealish, yeah. I just hope him and Maddison don't go out one night or something like that. He's
a reformed character, Madders.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan, the big question is, I was reading earlier that they couldn't play Rio and John Terry together. Everybody said you can't play Lampard and Gerrard together. Can you play Grealish and Maddison together? I mean, whatever you say about Grealish, he does raise the crowd when he comes on, and he does run. Sometimes I've sat there completely bored watching England. Grealish has come on, and at least he's got on and had a go and run at the defence. Yes, he goes down like a prostitute's knickers on double time, but he gets you the free kick. Can he be on the same pitch as Maddison? Because if it's a choice, nine times out of 10, it's going to be Grealish over Maddison. I get the feeling.
So, do you think Maddison's going to go to this tournament and play out wide, or do you think he might be utilised behind a striker like Harry Kane? That way, if we do change it up, Harry Kane's not having to push us deep.
To be honest with you, this is Gareth Southgate. Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
he could be playing 9 at the back
Ostrich.
and Harry Kane up front. You know?
Yeah, we don't know the formula, the formation, do we? We've never known it really.
No.
I mean,
But do
ideally,
you think they
Maddison
can
behind
play in the
Kane.
same team?
Yeah,
I'd say so. Yeah, I think it's just about getting them to play together. They might play this game against Iran and it not work. But then yet again, you can't say it's not worked after one game. It needs to be consecutive. You need to see whether it's going to gel.
also
the thing is, for me, Grealish is an impact sub. For me, for England, I'd say Grealish is an impact sub, not a starter. I say he comes on against teams that are, okay, the score may be close or whatever. He comes on, he's a nippy little bastard and pees everybody off, because as soon as he's touched, as I say, he's down there checking every blade of grass to see if there's, a ladybird present or out like that. He's down as close as you can get. So, yeah, impact sub for me is Grealish. Maddison starts, in my opinion.
I think I've got to say, and I'm going to make a plea here to the England kit man. Please make sure you got a pair of socks that bloody fit Grealish, because Man City don't. My nickname for him in the when we played Man City was Mr. Socks, but there we go.
I don't get this. Players can't play together.
Not going to be an impact sub as well, do you think?
No, Maddison should start, shouldn't he? I mean, playing behind Harry Kane is perfect, because that's what he should be doing at Leicester, not out wide. I don't know why he's played out wide. Mainly probably because of Tielemans, but he should be behind them, definitely. So I don't get you can't play two potentially world-class players together. That John Terry and Ferdinand, that was because of the racist thing, wasn't it?
With Rio's brother Anton.
Yeah, some crap like that. I mean, ridiculous. But it's happened before. I mean, Gerrard and Lampard, of course, they can play together. The only people that couldn't were Clements and Shilton. But
don't tell Southgate. He probably would have tried that.
So I don't go for that. I think the biggest thing is what formation he fancies, and that can change throughout the tournament. Like I think Bobby Robson did, didn't he? When he suddenly put Peter Beardsley up there, and that worked. So I think it's a formation. I can't see Harry Kane up on his own. He'll be probably playing in a 2 up front. Do you reckon? Or am I jumping the gun again, Chris? Sorry.
I think that's quite all right, Dave. You've got to think Maddison will be like a false 9 just off Harry Kane.
Yeah.
But we're playing Iran first, and I tended to dismiss Iran, but they've got Carlos Queiroz as manager. They're 20th in the FIFA rankings, and I'm just worried that if he does start Maddison in that first game and we don't get a result, because everybody's saying, England should beat Iran, blah, blah, blah. If we come off with a draw, he's then got, like we said earlier, he's got that excuse to say, well, look, guys, I played him. Yeah. Now, you can't make those sort of decisions on one game, can you? But it's tournament football.
I mean, do you reckon we're going to get very far in this anyway?
Now you are jumping ahead again.
Yeah, sorry.
Rein it in, Dave.
It just depresses me. I've been waiting since 1966 for another go at it.
You should have watched the Women's Euros.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah.
Dan, Henderson, we talked about him last night. He's for me, he's Mr. Solid. If you're 1-0 up and you're under a bit of pressure and maybe you're being overrun, for me, you put him on and he brings that experienced head to the game.
Again, similar to what you're saying, a final 10 minutes of the game, shore up that back line a little bit. But for me, the main reason he is there, similar to Harry Kane, as a voice in the dressing room. Yes, it's stupid that you need somebody there as a voice in the dressing room. You should all be talking together. You should all be leaders. You don't need an armband to make you shout a bit louder, in my opinion. You're all there to do a job and you're all there to help each other out, to get the best scenario, which is to go and win the damn thing. But Henderson, yes, for me, he's just going to be a voice.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I've underlined him as somebody I probably wouldn't, but I think you're right. The changing room is important, and we've got what 23
I don't think he's a starter, Dave.
No, he's definitely not a starter.
Not even dessert. Look at him.
Well, yeah, I mean, Declan Rice again to me is that guy, that will have a voice and will get them going. Mason Mount should be, but I've not heard him squeak, let alone shout.
I think just for me, like I say, just to come on, like we used to do with Wes Morgan towards the end. He would come on and just settle that back four, and I think he's got that. Last two players, I'll come to you first with this one, Dave. Callum Wilson for me. Abraham's not. I would have included Abraham, but if it was out of the two, for me, Callum Wilson. I mean, he's just having such a good season.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but probably for the wrong reasons. I'd have taken Ivan Toney because he's great at penalties.
Fair point. Fair
well,
point.
no, he's a quality player. I mean, poor guy's had no chance, has he really? I talk about form. His form's a bit better than Callum Wilson in a team that's not as good. And a guy up front like that has shown so much quality. I'd take him instead. I really would.
A Saint says here, Rice is a starter. For me, I must admit, I always thought it came with the main course. And I have avoided all the food jokes that have come before from everybody as well.
In your part of the world, Chris, it's a pudding, isn't it?
in my part of the world, it's a 4 o'clock in the morning midnight snack. For the last 18 months, says Box, I'd have had Abraham. Abraham was in most of the squads for Southgate, but he is going through a bad patch. And when you are out and abroad, and again we touched on this, you're outside of the radar a little bit. So unless you are performing really brilliantly and getting the headlines, you can be missed.
Well, that's what I wondered about Tomori. Whether he's paying the price for not being in England.
Quite possibly.
It's a shame, but
it's a tomato situation, isn't it? Because some of the youngsters aren't going to get game time at clubs, so they tend to look abroad. Then they start hitting form, but because of the difference of where they are, they don't get that call because they're overlooked. It shouldn't be like that. At the end of the day, it's called a national pool because you've got to be, not part of that nationality, but you've got to scout the nation for the best English talent. No matter what league they're in, they should be in there. But yeah, like you say, Abraham's tailed off.
Gallagher, Conor Gallagher. Surprise?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, Mount and Gallagher. Sometimes I think players are called up for the fact that they play for a big club. Yes, Gallagher last season at Palace should have been. You can say, based on his stats last season at Palace, brilliant, fantastic, needs to be in there. At Chelsea, has he really continued that? I mean, Tuchel got sacked, so that must speak volumes. Potter's come in, he got a few wins, and now he's starting to fall off the bandwagon a little bit. So are these players actually performing, or are they just getting in there because they play for one of the favoured clubs in the English divisions? That's another question for another day, though, I suppose.
It is. I mean, when you look at that, there's 26 players there. They're not all going to get a game, because let's say we beat Iran, let's say we beat USA, and we sat on 6 points. We are still going to have to beat Wales possibly to be top of the group. So there's no way of resting players. So probably out of those 26, you're probably going to say 15 at the most may actually get time on the pitch.
But they shouldn't, should they? Because they're all top class internationals, according to the manager. So you should be able to pick any of those players and still get the same result up to a point.
He should, but again,
All right, you've got your Harry Kanes, and I'm just trying to see who else is almost without thinking about maybe Sterling, Pickford, Luke Shaw maybe, but I can't see anybody else that is any better. Kyle Walker maybe if he's not injured.
Well, that's why I'm going to say unless you get an injury,
that's 4 or 5 players though, Chris. That's all. You know,
but
look at the Euros as well, though, Chris.
5 onto the 11, and you got your 15 odd that he's going to use. I mean, you pick your team for game A, and really that should be what you believe as a manager should be your best 11 that you're going to be starting whenever possible. But if you start changing that round, in the second game, in the third game, Dan, these players aren't going to be used to, they're going to be coming in and saying, oh, well, you should have been there. Well, Kane's never there. Why should I be? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do see what you're getting at, but that's why they need to do that and work a team ethic on the training pitch. These players should be able to play with whoever steps up to the position. That's what they work on the training ground. I mean, look at the Euros. Kane weren't firing on all cylinders, and Southgate were making substitutions and still keeping Kane on the pitch. And everyone were asking questions for about 3 games. What you're pissing playing at? Take him off. He's not doing anything. In fact, he was stagnated. Sometimes he's being marked by 2 or 3 players, but yet you can't keep that one player on just for hopefully a flash of brilliance that may not come.
As I said this earlier, that Gary Lineker was taken off in his last game and was therefore ending 1 short on the goal tally of Bobby Charlton by Graham Taylor, and Alan Smith was put on. But that Gary Lineker, Jamie Vardy at the moment, he can do nothing for 85 minutes, 1 piece of brilliance, 1-0, you've won the game. Is Kane not one of those players, Dan?
No, not for me. Not for me. Kane's one of them to Southgate. He's like, he tries to build the team around Kane. And if Kane's not performing, then what do? We can't blame the rest of the team. If the team are trying to get the ball to him, how many games did we watch during that Nations League? How many games did we watch during the Euros where he was so defensively or practically sat in midfield that when we did get forward on the overlap, we ended up losing it because there was nobody to play it into the centre to because people weren't fast enough to get into the mix. So I don't know whether that's, it's not just on Kane. I know Kane maybe has to play a bit deeper, but then yet again, he's also got to keep up with play going forward. And as a player of his quality, he should be able to do that. And that's why when I say earlier, Maddison may be behind him, giving him that nudge that you stay a bit forward. I'll do the running around like a madman. You stay where you need to be. And even if it's just a little tapping at the back post, a little flick on here, they all count.
Yeah, but Dave,
it's pushing 30 as well.
And you can say we've not done this. Yeah, we should be doing this. Is saying whoever our best player is and building the team around him.
If you could do that, but I don't think we have anybody like that.
We're just saying with Kane, should he?
No, he's nearly 30 now. He can't play the way he's been playing. Like Vardy can't. Vardy can't do what he's been doing and still trying to do. It's impossible. No matter, 30 is no age, is it? But when you're playing that level of football, it is. And I think I think Dan's right. He's having to play in midfield, pick up the ball, and then take it up. He has more runs for Spurs now from the midfield than he's ever done because he's got nobody there that are providing him the right ball. Him and Vardy couldn't play together, certainly, and England couldn't play with Vardy because they never play those sort of balls through. It all comes from that midfield area. And Maddison's perfect for that. If Kane gets his arse up the front where he should be, and maybe with Sterling as well, we could actually make something happen. But to allow Kane to be one up front and chasing everywhere is just impossible.
Quickly want to go on to those that aren't there. We've mentioned a few of them already, but the main ones really, let's stick with you for this first of all, Dave, because you mentioned him before. Ivan Toney and Roma striker Tammy Abraham. Are you surprised those two aren't there? I know you are with Toney.
Well, I'm surprised Tony's not there. Abraham, not so much, no. Because I say he hasn't been playing well just lately. But Toney has done nothing wrong. he's scoring goals. He's playing really well in an average side. I mean, Brentford will be caught out as the season goes on again. They had a great year last year, but it can't last. Unfortunately, I wish it could, but he's going to move on. And I think if he was playing for Liverpool, Chelsea, somebody like that, he'd be there without any doubt.
I mean, do you agree, Dan?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking there at the players that are in the squad. Calvin Phillips, he's not getting a sniff at Manchester City, but still gets a call for England. Ivan Toney's having to pull his socks up week in, week out, dig Brentford out the shit every single week by the odd goal. I mean, okay, it didn't dig them out against Gillingham, but hey ho, everyone has a cross to burn in the cup. But at least he's getting game time. He's putting the ball in the right areas. And that's what we need. We need a striker like that that's going to sit on the shoulder of the last defender. If Kane is going to drop deep, then into the midfield, you need someone who's going to be a bit of a lazy git and stay up there, chatting to the last defender, and just playing off the shoulder. Yeah, for me, Toney should be in there. Obviously, he's got the FA thing hanging over his head.
Yeah. That may
but then again, how many times have we had players in the squad with controversy?
Just looking here, Harry Kane is the highest placed Englishman in the goal scoring at the moment. It's a shame Erling Haaland hasn't got an English grandmother twice removed. But second, after Harry Kane as an English player, is Ivan Toney with 8 goals and 2 assists. I mean, I'd probably think maybe instead of even Rashford.
I'd still take Rashford.
Yeah, I'd still take Rashford.
But, certainly you've got to question reasons why. I mean, we'd like to... I mean, Southgate would come up with some nonsense, wouldn't he? But it'd be nice to know the real reasons why. And if that FA thing is a problem, then God knows we will never squad.
Well, yeah, look at Roy Hodgson when the situation happened with Terry and Ferdinand. He didn't say it was because of the racial slurs and things like that. He said, it was a footballing decision.
Yeah.
I suppose if he comes out and says it was the other reason, you just open up a whole can of worms then with,
Is Maguire still being investigated, or is that still going on?
What, for impersonating a footballer?
Apparently he broke his contract with Zanussi, I heard.
I mean, I've not heard any conclusion to the Greece episode. It was Greece, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's probably all died down.
I'm not so sure, mate. I'm not so sure.
But we've got, like I said, maybe it's just me. I just don't see what all this thing with Rashford blowing smoke up his arse is about, because I say he's hardly played again, and he's got 1 goal last game. When you look at what Tony's doing, so for me, it's all about opinions. But for me, Dan, 2 that didn't make it for you to have a chat on: James Ward-Prowse and Jordan Sancho, or Jadon Sancho, I should say.
This goes back to what you just said about Rashford. Sancho, no. Rashford, yes, because Rashford has contributed more. Maybe not in terms of the goals, but contributed more than what Sancho has done. Ward-Prowse, why? What's everybody's obsession with him? Yes, he can hit it. He can strike a ball. Brilliant. You know what? If I stood there, if I stood there and hit it, I'd probably get 2 free kicks. I'd score 2 free kicks out of 100. Does that mean I'm world class as well? Nah, does it, bollocks? I think the thing is, you've got to look at the bigger picture, not just the fact that he can hit a ball and grab a goal from a set piece. As I said earlier, Trippier can do that. Fleming, Maddison can do it. I mean, I was going to say Harry Kane can, but we'll leave him on corners, throw-ins, and everything else like Southgate likes to do. So,
I think that was Roy Hodgson, wasn't it?
Well, it could have been, yeah. Could have been, yeah. But for me, Sancho is a no. He's not really tearing it up since he's moved to United. And Ward-Prowse is a certain no. I mean, he's what? He was like Grealish to Villa. He's the knight in shining armour in a sharp team.
I did hear when I was talking to some Southampton fans, and they said if you take away his free kicks, it's kind of that's his game. But then other people will say, no, he brings everything to the party. So
If you take away his free kicks, Chris, he'd be a plumber.
Oh, don't hold back. Say what you think. What do you mean he'd be turning up for 2 hours late for the game?
He'd still be trying to get paid football money for doing half a job of twisting a flaming nut round a radiator.
True. Right, this now I've got to try and work these tables out myself here because I haven't really had much time to study them.
Life.
But yeah, I must admit, I do thank Sky the joy, as I say, of starting a show 3 hours after the announcement. How does
for a minute, Chris? I thought this was Qatar's version of Tipping Point.
Yeah, well, Strictly Come Dancing or something.
No. This is how does this year's squad compare? So on goals, you have got in yellow. You can see where the squad that he's picked, how they are doing for goals on average. In 2018, it was about 2.5. So we're better than that. So we're 4.5. And why they've gone back to 1966, God knows, but it was right up at the top end of the scale. So certainly in goals, we should be better than we were in Russia. In caps, I suppose, as in how long they've played, a lot better in 22 than 18 or 66. So again, you would hope with that you're getting the experience. Age, a lot younger in 2018, but maybe that's because obviously the same players have come through, stayed, in Gareth's squads, and therefore they're 4 years older now. Looks like it's dead on the same age as 1966. So, I know it's stats, and I know it's doesn't make any difference at the end of the day when the ball's kicked off, but it doesn't look too bad as you're comparing it to the last World Cup.
I'm totally confused. All I know is...
Go and have a lie down, Dave. Go and have a lie down.
All I know is not 1966 there, Jimmy Greaves, which would explain the goals, but he didn't get past... Well, he didn't play in the quarterfinal, did he? No. In fact, he didn't. I don't think he scored in the group games. In fact, we didn't score many in the group games. So, yeah, that would be because of Jimmy Greaves. So, I don't know, mate. I don't know. I think being 4 years older helps.
Well, you would hope so. You would hope so.
There should be experience. They're experienced to lose in a final. That should help them.
Yeah. We accuse him of being defensive. We say Gareth Southgate is, uber defensive. And I've just got this out of order, but never mind. Let's go for this one anyway. So on 2022, percentage of the squad that are defenders is 34.5%. Less than he took to Russia. It was 44% with Russia.
Well, yeah, that went well, didn't it?
Your thoughts on that, Dan?
The thing is, these stats are funny to, like Dave said, can be quite confusing. Yes, it's been compared to 2018, to the last World Cup, but you could not. I suppose you can only go off that. How defensive is the England squad? Of percentage of the squad that are defenders? Percentage of the squad that are defenders means nothing, especially when you've got a striker that drops deep. Your midfielders then drop deep. So whether there's 5 defenders in there, whether there's 8 defenders in there, percentage for this stat, I think, means nothing. I think this one is a bullshit one Sky have just come up with to make it sound like defensively we are stronger. We will be, stronger, and we can't say that Southgate's defensive in this tournament.
Now then, the next one is a little bit worrying. It's one I like to use in all the matches in the Premier League, and it's the form going into the tournament. It won't surprise you. It won't surprise you, this one. There we go. Look at that. 2022, lost, drawn, lost, drawn. A goal difference of -5 with 3 points. 2018, we didn't lose in 5 days. This is what worries me. But is it a good thing that we're going into this World Cup, in fairness, with less expectations?
I think we've always had a problem. I think when Sven was in charge and maybe one or two others, we qualified really easily, didn't we? And we played really well up to the finals, and then it all went wrong. So we didn't have that big tournament mentality at the time. What that means is we've just been crap for the last 6 games, really. And that bothers me. It bothers me big time, because it's like Leicester. You start losing, you keep losing. You start winning, you know, you stop it. And
you know about that, Dan, don't you?
Last season, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fair point. But Dan, I mean, the groups, and it just pissed me off. The groups are designed for the big boys to get through. I know Italy didn't, but they must be really awful. But when you look who we get in the groups, you know, your Maltas, your Gibraltars, they're never ever going to get through in a month of Sundays. Let's be honest. And I think they should just pull out the names out the hat. And if we're in a qualifying group with Germany and Holland, great, so be it. So if we didn't have the Nations League there, we would have 1-1-1-1-1, literally. And we'd be going in with false hope, and it's coming home, and, you know, oh, England, fantastic, we're going to win it. Maybe this is the reality check we need.
Potentially, or the demise of a nation. There's 2 ways of looking at it. You looking at them stats there. It's pathetic. It's poor. It is poor. There's no doubt about it. 3 points is it's shite. It's shocking. Minus five. Yeah. That -5 is huge. It's huge. So for me,
we all know those 5 are down to Harry Maguire, don't we?
The thing is though, Chris, right? We can go into this tournament as underdogs. Great stuff. But to the other teams, they're not going to look at us and go, "Oh, England underdogs." Look at how they've been talking about us. They qualified for the tournament. Yes, in the Nations League, it's not really gone that great for them, but I still expect them to do this and that and do great things. They're not playing us down. Maybe us as fans, we shouldn't be playing it down either. But for me personally, I think that, I'm doing a Dave. I might be getting ahead of myself with this answer, but I think we are. I think we're really going to struggle. I think we really are. As much as I want to have a sense of optimism, I just can't. I can't feel it.
I just think sometimes, and it does happen, I don't care what anybody says or what the managers say about, oh, we're not taking them lightly, or this, that, and the other. Leicester did not put a strong team out against Stockport, and we struggled. We went through on penalties. We put a strong team out against Newport. We went through. Both of them League Two clubs. Liverpool said, it's only Derby. We're going to play the youngsters, and they got through by the skin of their teeth on a penalty. You know, West Ham made a load of changes. Look what happened. And I know they bring the other players on with the last 10 minutes and what have you. But I just think that, we go into these tournaments as England. Yeah, look at we've won all these games. Yeah, but, in the qualifying group, we beat Gibraltar, we beat Malta, we beat my mother's top 12 of 1956, whatever. And we're going to win it. We're going to win that. So I just think we're going to go in, and I just think it's giving us a dose of reality. And yes, that may mean, and we'll come on to this in a second, it may mean that we're not going to get very far, but maybe it's just brought us down that peg or two. I'm thinking, it's like Leicester season last season. Oh, we're a top 5 club. We should be in Europe every season. No, we fucking shouldn't be. We had 2 very good seasons. Last season was like a reality check. And maybe that's what we need as the England squad.
But look at Declan Rice. He was coming out and saying, wasn't he, at the end of when we've got the relegation, the big fat R at the side of our name. And he said, it's strange because on the training pitch, we're putting people to the sword, goals galore. It works. But as soon as it comes to a game, it's like arse falls out and we crumble. But that said, that's what I mean. When you're in training, you okay, maybe potentially you go a bit lighter because you're playing against your teammates. But yeah, for me, even in the Nation League games, in the lead up to this tournament, some of the players' interviews didn't sound confident enough for me to go into this thinking we're going to give this a good go. we're going to put the world to rights. Look at how we did. That's not good enough. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. No, it was a case of on training we do it, but it's just a case of trying putting it to the pitch. It was almost like a shrug of the shoulders.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to be a bit worried of coming on to this one, because if the earlier one confused Dave, I think Dave might want to go and put kettle on for this one.
I think you're right.
Apparently, now then, let's explain this. The average league position. So I think what they do is they take the teams that that the players play for, where their team is in the league, and then they average it out. What difference it makes, God knows. But look, it fills 2 seconds and gives me a graph to put up. So in 1966, the average position of the players was 10th in the league. 2006, it was 4th, as it was in 2014. 2018, it was 5th, and it's 6th this season. So potentially, we should have the players there, Dave.
Yeah, don't forget West Ham won the World Cup in '66, and they weren't very good in the league. So again, that's another false sort of reading. Wow, God knows.
Stats can be taken either way, can't they? You can, 2 people can read the stats, and one can say, well, politics. Conservatives can bring something out and say it's fantastic. Labour can look at it and say it's rubbish. It's the same with stats, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you have one player and a team of international foreigners, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Is that the point? Or is
Sky are pulling these stats up to make it sound better than what it is. It's like saying, Leicester will have a clean sheet.
Be careful.
Leicester will, what's the word? Leicester have not had a clean sheet when Jay Rodriguez has scored. It's like such a backhanded stat. It's stupid, and Sky do it to make it sound better. I go back to what I said earlier. They're as bad as politicians. They try to sugarcoat it and make it sound like, oh, well, maybe we should have a bit more belief. Maybe we should have some optimism. Let's just call it as it is. As fans, can we really be confident with the way we're going into this tournament? No.
I think with Sky that they've got 24 hours of sports news to fill as well.
Yeah, Can I go back to something, Chris, on the defensive play? I don't think the problem was being defensive. I think the problem was, from my view, Southgate didn't change it when it wasn't working. And I think we had this Rodgers thing, didn't we, in the early season? If you're holding them for 35, 40 minutes, the system's not working, change it. He would never change it, would he? So, and Harry Kane would stay on the pitch generally, and all the players that weren't performing would stay on. And I think that's the big problem. You have to think twice.
He got us to 4th. Playing devil's advocate here, he got us to 4th.
He did, yeah. But we didn't win anything.
Well, no, he didn't, and I doubt we are going to this season either. You asked earlier about where England would be. Now, again, I have to thank Sky for this if I can find it, which I probably can't now.
Remind me to unsubscribe. I'll be watching those stats. Not from you, Chris. I mean Sky.
While I'm trying to find these stats, it does make it interesting. Dan, let's start with you first. Where can England, or how far can England go? And as who was it who's asked here? A Saint with a Sin has said, how far and what would be acceptable?
Going into it on the back of how we've performed, I think we should be very happy to even get out the group. Personally, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to sugarcoat it and say like we do every year, it's coming home, it's this, it's that. We've got to go in with the mantra. I'm using professional managerial words now. We've got to go in with that mantra of taking it a game at a time. I don't care whether it's USA, Iran, or a bunch of kids playing Kirby on the front street. You don't take it a game at a time.
Not talk about Wales. That's very disrespectful.
But it's true, though. You've got to take it a game at a time. Do not underestimate Iran. Do not underestimate the USA. Don't even underestimate the Welsh. You know, they'll be coming here with a point to prove after 60 odd years. They won't want to just, you know, think we're not coming here to make numbers up. So a game at a time. If we get out this group stage, then maybe a sense of can we go one further? But you've still got to take it each game as it comes. Last 16 for me, Southgate gone, and sort of a rebuild, a bit of a rebuild.
Dave,
I'm not sure. I think we'll get through the group. I am not so sure about the is it last 32 or something ridiculous? Because I've always fancied us to get to the last 16, but I'm not sure who we'd play if we win the group.
I think in this tournament we get a noticeable run into final. I think.
Let me go through that because that is what I have here. Here. It is last 16 if we get through the group.
Right, okay.
Box says it's coming home to Burnley. I'm not sure what he means. It might mean avian flu.
We'll be on Sunday.
You know. So if we top the group, so if we win Group B, we will play potentially. Well, we've got Ecuador here now. What Sky have done again is they have based that when they're looking at it, the teams that are higher ranked will go through. So the top two that are higher ranked in Group A will go through first and second. And as you come through, as teams meet, the higher ranks would go through. So if we win, we could play Ecuador, but it could also be Senegal as well. If we get past that, we're into the quarterfinals, and we will meet France possibly.
Yeah, I thought.
If we manage to get past France, we will then meet in the semi-finals Belgium. And if we get past Belgium, we would meet Netherlands in the final, possibly. So, if we finish second in the group, you think that one was hard? We've got to finish top, because if we finish second, we could be meeting Holland in the next round. If we get past Holland in the quarterfinals, we will meet Argentina. If we get past Brazil. If we get past Argentina, we could then potentially play Brazil in the semis. And if we beat Brazil in the semis, we could be meeting France in the final. We had it easy in Russia. We had a lot easier run than either of them two.
Germany not in it?
Sorry?
Germany not in it?
And apparently they must be knocked out by Brazil or something like that.
I can't see that. Germany always. See, you talk about tournament play. Germany are always there.
Yeah, they are. But like I said at the start, Dave, like I said at the start, to make the point is that what they've done is they've taken the higher FIFA ranking when two teams have met. You know, because otherwise there's so many options. You know,
I'm going to say we all know with Germany they start a tournament shit, but they grow into it, don't they? They just get stronger and stronger with every game.
They did at the Euros, didn't they? Oh no, they didn't. Did they not? They didn't.
No.
They knocked them out. The last World Cup, didn't they? They started badly and they ended badly because they didn't get out the group, did they? So
once in 60 years.
Sorry, Dan, I can resist that. But a hard run, whichever way we go.
Yeah. I think the last 16 then. I think that's as far as we can hope for.
Yeah. No, I would agree. And
sad, isn't it? Sad.
I think my worry is that if we sack Southgate after the World Cup, who would we replace him with? Now we're all going to shout out probably Eddie Howe.
No, nobody yet. We can't sack him after the World Cup. I
was going to say, because that's going to be the time I think when he is possibly sacked. If he does a Roy Hodgson and doesn't get us out of the group, then I think he's got to go. But will Newcastle let Eddie Howe go this early into his tenure? So we might have another manager coming in that could probably, I want Eddie Howe as the next England manager. Is he? What do you think, Dan? I mean, does he go, or do we hold on to him for another tournament, by which time possibly Eddie Howe will be prepared to be let go by Newcastle?
I think we review the situation on how this tournament goes.
That's kicking it out, that is.
No, it's not. I think if he can, after the way we've done in the Nations League, If he could, no, because this goes back. I can bring it back to Leicester. You know, how many times have you called Brendan a bellend? How many times has Brendan then stopped being a bellend? Then how many times has Brendan gone back to being that again? This is what I'm saying with Southgate. With Southgate, we can keep saying about Southgate that he's that. Yes, okay. For me, it depends on this tournament. This tournament, his career is on the line for. In my opinion, I think this is his final judgment. This tournament.
Yeah.
If it carries on the way it did in the Nations League, go. If he sort of can build up a revival, similar to how Brendan's done at the moment in terms of getting points on the board, you're starting to work your way back up the league. That's what managers are there for. They've got to try and make the dull days, come back to what the great days you once had.
And he's not a bad manager, is he? He's just made mistakes at the wrong time and, bad mistakes. But he's a great ambassador for the country. He's everything the FA want in an England manager. But we still
You can see he's changed, though, Dave. You can see he's changed. Look at when we went to that last tournament in the Euros, he was jumping around like he was one of the players on the bench. After every goal, he's shouting and bawling, he's running and celebrating with the players. Recently, he's just been stood there like that, and you're not seeing his lips move.
No.
I mean, Saint says there it's not up to Newcastle, it's Eddie Howe's choice. I think you'll find it's up to Newcastle because he's their employer. If he walks, that would cost him a hell of a lot of money because he wouldn't get anything from Newcastle. Or if it is agreed, England will have to pay a hell of a lot of money to Newcastle to get him out of the contract. So I don't know.
You know what? It would be
Sorry.
great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be great as we get to the semis? We don't lose on penalties, but we make a big fist of it, and everyone comes back thinking that was good. We didn't expect anything, but it was really good. Carry on, Gareth. Win the Euros next time, and that's what we want, isn't it? Really.
Was it like that a bit after Russia? Do you think?
Yeah,
We weren't expecting. If you said we were going to get fourth, we'd have laughed at you, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I think so.
But it kind of fell. I mean, those predictions there that they've said, who we might get. Teams can knock each other out. It's tournament football.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sports Capital. It's actually 3 shirts in one because you got the red bit at the bottom there.
It's a bit cold down there.
Yeah, no, we couldn't. I couldn't afford one shirt, so I just got 3 old ones and cut them together. But do you think? I'll ask you this first, Dave. Do national managers have? Because we say this about club managers. Do they kind of have a use by date? I mean, he's now had 4 tournaments. Is it just time for a refresh naturally?
I think sadly everybody does in whatever job. I think you lose that spark. You fall out of ideas. You're saying the same old thing in the changing room. Harry Kane must hear it all the time. You get young players, new players, and it's different. But I think so. I think any manager. What else do you say? You say the same stuff, don't you? Stay tight, take the man, do this, do that, and they stop listening. And I think it needs somebody to come in with different ideas. I mean, he's not done bad. He's come in with the psychological stuff. He's come in with the meditation stuff and everything, all the things that he could possibly use to actually make it work. I think the relationship between the players and the press has been the best it's ever been. I don't think anybody gets stopped from talking to the players. I can't think of a scandal over the last few tournaments, really. I don't know. Nothing comes to mind. Now, you'd never have that. There'd always be something go wrong. But now, no. I think he's got that dead right. I think the problem was he was unlucky against Italy to a degree, but he messed up. Yeah. He messed up big time. And he messed up, and we knew he'd messed up when he did it. When he brought those players on, everybody knew it wasn't going to end well. And he's paying the price for it.
Would you think just naturally you should change them like the US president? And the party may still win, but you have a change at the top every 3rd term.
you've got to be. No, sorry, Dave. Go on.
No, I said I don't think so. I think it shows when you're running out of steam, and Gareth probably is. I think they did the same with Alf Ramsey. I mean, you talk about the shocks of football now. Sacking Alf Ramsey in '73 for one bad result was disgraceful. But
missing out missing out on a tournament, wasn't it?
It was a mistake by Norman Hunter. Shilton dived over the ball, and we drew with Poland, who finished third in that World Cup. So,
Norman Hunter, Dave. See? Leeds, Yorkshire again. Told you. Northern.
No. If it'd been a leg there, it'd have taken it out as it was a ball.
But Dan, I mean, like I say, do you not think like you say, do you just need a refresh? You know, we're saying about and let's go back to Brendan Rodgers. You know, he has 3 good seasons at a club. Then, he runs out of ideas. Claudio Ranieri has 1 good season at a club, and then it all goes wrong for him. Do we not? Because, I mean, this England manager's job, let's be honest with you, it should be the easiest job in English football. I know everybody says it's the hardest job, but you've got the pick of the players. You're picking 26 top players, and you probably got 30 top players, because there's probably 3 or 4 that haven't gone, who know how to play. If they are put as round pegs in round holes, it should be easy.
You'd like to think so. Again, it goes back to what you were saying there. Sometimes a manager does need to change. I talk about my missus' stint at Arsenal. She overstayed her welcome. I mean, sorry, Arsene Wenger overstayed her welcome. Overstayed his welcome there a little bit because he had the success, but eventually, they clung on, thinking, can he change it? Arteta now. It weren't working out. Fans have been screaming out, get him out for years. Now they're the best thing since sliced bread. Sean Dyche, again, had a great tenure at Burnley. Ben Mees come out in a recent interview and said towards the end, Sean Dyche at the beginning was so approachable, was like one of the lads, you could speak to him. Towards the end of his tenure, he was standoffish. So it's not just about the players. The manager can go a little bit power mad. The manager can change.
But again, if he's changed every 4 tournaments.
Well, yeah, I think with that, Dan, though, as a manager, and I've managed a lower level teams, but you do start getting paranoid. When you see 2 players together at the bar afterwards, you think, what are they talking about? Or, you make a substitution that is not overly popular, rightly or wrongly, and, you suddenly get like that. And I think Dyche got a bit like that, where things weren't going right. He started to get a bit defensive, and it showed. And I think that's a big problem. I think with an England manager, the secret is if you don't get in the England squad, you're going to be, these 6 or 7 guys that haven't made it are going to be giving it.
You're dealing with egos as well, aren't you? At international level, you've got big players, massive players who are names that even if they're put a sock on that's got an L on for left on the right foot, it's in the press.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's ridiculous. So you've got to be a great man manager. You've also got to be a disciplinarian. You've got to be a sort of father figure in a sense. Shoulder to cry on if they've got problems. You've got to be a plethora of different things all in one person, and it is a lot of pressures to a manager. But then you've got to think the manager's dealing with his own pressures, Chris. Of look at Southgate. Like Dave said, he's going to deal with that pressure of making that mistake against Italy. But then he's also got the pressure of those players feeling the way that it ended.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like, shit, how do I juggle it?
It's harder because he hasn't got another game to sort of get back on that bike, if you like. But also as well, let's remember, he did not want the job. He said he did not want the England manager's job. The FA said, look, we've had to sack Sam Allardyce, being a bit dodgy, allegedly. Please just take it for a couple of games. Took it over, won a few games, and obviously, the rest is history, as they say. So he probably wouldn't be sorry. I have just heard Robert Page, the Welsh manager, he's just arranged, apparently, because of course they announced the Welsh squad yesterday. Apparently, he's arranged a night out for all the players. What are you going to be doing, Robert?
Let's go screw some sheep.
Well, Robert, I'm sorry, Robert. I'm not. No. You'll have to go now. Foreign manager? Would we go back down that road?
No.
Nah.
No, I think I would agree. Interesting thing is, would you go back to any manager that we've had before? Now, Holland, we know one of the they've never won it. Probably the biggest team.
Louis van Gaal's army.
Yeah, Louis van Gaal has been manager 3 separate occasions. Dick Advocaat has been manager on 3 separate occasions.
Wow.
Big Sam.
No.
Well, that's the shortest answer Dave's ever given.
I don't care whether it's alleged or not. Anybody that did what he did have to just be an appointed England manager.
No, I agree. I was being a tad sarcastic with Big Sam, but would you have anybody back then?
I'm trying to think who would I take? No.
No.
I mean, these managers have had the chance.
Robert. Leave them alone.
You haven't got right
These managers have had the chance.
Oh, I'll cut that out.
That's Surrey Hills Radio, not you.
Yeah. Any lawyers listening, go to Surrey Hills Radio.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Leicester Till I Die.
Bring it on. I don't think there's any manager there that's capable. I don't know what you think, Dan. I can't think of anybody.
No. I think I'd have loved to, if we're talking about managers that probably deserved a chance, I'd have loved to have seen Harry Redknapp when he was in his prime do it.
Yeah.
He's not an FA boy, so that like
Clough,
never get out.
No, Brian Clough, let's be honest with you, the best England manager that never was.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think the biggest shame, and to me, this is in a way why I think Ivan Toney was never going to go to the World Cup. Gareth Southgate, we were within Dan's dick away from going through to the final, because if Gascoigne had got that extra inch on his foot and hit the ball into the net, we'd have been in the final and probably won it. And he was sacked as England manager because he was in a court case with Alan Sugar over Spurs ownership.
I have to laugh because it's true.
Oh,
I mean,
I thought we got a message in from the woman. No,
she knows it's true. She knows it's true.
Yeah, I mean, Venables was probably one of the better managers we've had.
Oh, I was going to say, going back, forgetting Allardyce, forgetting Hodgson, he should never be let anywhere near. He shouldn't even have been in the Sky studio today.
Well, as lovely a man as he was, Graham Turner, neither, Steve McLaren. I mean, the list builds up, doesn't it?
The Wally with the brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Stuart Pearce, Fabio Capello, Steve McLaren, Sven, I don't know if he's still managing. Peter Taylor, he's still managing somewhere down in the lower leagues. Keegan.
No.
You've got to think, you need an FAS man. You need an FAS man. Would Gerrard step up and be an FAS man?
Of course he would.
I mean, it's a situation.
I mean, I know what you would give. You'd give Brad a heart attack if you did that.
He won't worry anyway. He's a North Macedonia supporter, so sod him.
Yeah, that's fair point. Fair point there.
Gerrard manager and Lampard as assistant manager, but they can't work together, can they?
Nice one. On that note, I mean, a lot of people are saying in the chat, Rodgers. Now, he technically is a foreigner because he's Northern Irish. Could he do a job?
No.
Yeah, I think he could. I think he needs to have a bit more success at club level, because he hasn't actually won much, has he? And the FA Cup, God bless him, but he's not won anything else in England.
has ever really had much success at club level. Graham Taylor never won anything at club level. Brian Robson, not in this country. I think he won something in Spain, possibly.
Bobby Robson.
Bobby Robson. That would. Yeah, Kevin Keegan never won anything as a manager. Peter Taylor certainly didn't. Sven probably was the one because he won quite a few things abroad. But
Capello won a few things abroad, didn't he? As well.
He did as well. But it's a different animal, isn't it? Being a club manager is a different manager. There's a different thing to being an international manager.
Yeah. Massively.
You know what? I think Brendan Rodgers would do a great job with the under-21s or something like that.
Yeah, that's his
well,
fault.
That's what happened with Southgate, wasn't it? Southgate were under-21s and then came up. I mean, that's what you want. That's what you want. Sort of be a bit of an understudy, get yourself involved in there, sort of a bit like, it's strange to say, but like I said to you, Chris, not so long back about interim managers, you get yourself in there because you're not the main boss. You sort of can have a crack with the players and you can get to know them inside and out. And then when you do get the top job, as long as you can keep that level head and still have a laugh with them, they will run through brick walls for you. And I think that's why we saw what we did in the Euros. And maybe now it's a case of a few people have changed. Maybe they don't believe in what he's doing. It's not working to the strengths of them as players. And they're thinking, well, sod him. I don't know. We can all put our own points to it, can't we? And just say it's one of them.
Just out of interest, though, Gareth Southgate, his win percentage is 60.5. We'll ignore Sam Allardyce because that was 100. Hodgson was 58.9. Capello was 66.7. McLaren was 50%. Sven Goran Eriksson 59.7. And when you look at his record, 2018 World Cup, 4th place. 18-19 Nations League, 3rd place. Euro 2020, 2nd place. Nations League 2021, all right, 9th and 15th we were then, going back then. But the last three tournaments, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, maybe.
That goes back to what you said earlier, Chris, though. It contradicts it a little bit because you said earlier about how teams, we're playing nobodies now because you get easy draws in these group stages, or you're playing these teams that are minnows.
Easy draws in the qualifying.
Yeah, but that's still going to contribute to your win percentage.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree.
That's why it's higher, isn't it? That's why it's higher than average. Yeah, what's the average? About 45% in league football, maybe 40-45%. I don't know, but that's why because you play Andorra, Macedonia. Well, actually, Macedonia, right? Isn't it? All teams like that, and
But no, you're quite right, Dan. You're quite right. But look, as I said earlier on yours, we could still be here at 4 o'clock in the morning arguing about Southgate is the one, despite what Atomic Kittens sing, and whether it will come home or not. And if it doesn't, they can't leave it with the neighbours because Scotland are out as well. So,
are they? Didn't they make it?
No, they didn't allegedly. But as I say, it was still very, very surreal watching Doug and Reese, who are both Scotsmen, talking about the World Cup. Neither of them are there. But yeah, Amazon, if you're bringing it home, make sure you don't leave it with a neighbour. Dave, thank you very much for coming on.
Pal.
Short notice. Your kids have been great. Your grandkids have been great, by the way.
I've heard screaming out there. I hate to think what's going on.
How old are
they? 18 months.
Oh, my God.
Fortunately, the wife's Kathy's out there, so I'll have to go and help. Nice to talk to you, boys.
You have a radio station. Where can people find you?
Yeah, surreyhillsradio.co.uk. I'll be there at 8 o'clock in the morning with Karaoke Friday, I think it is. 8 to 10 tomorrow.
Dan will be there. Dan will
All
be
requests welcome.
He likes to sing some. Dave, thank you so much. Go sort the grandkids out. Relieve your wife.
Nice to see you, Dave. Take care.
Tomorrow night, Dave. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll do.
Take care. Bye-bye. Daniel San.
Yes.
Where can people find you? You are everywhere.
I am. I'm mostly sat here.
Anywhere you leave your hat, that is your home.
It is, except my hat will mostly stay on my head because of the lookalike comments recently. But Yep, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok. Well, probably not that. I can't be asked, but the main social media platforms, you can find us there. All you got to do is search at Turf Moorhouse, and big game for the Clarets on Sunday. Which please show Chris your support because he's covering it.
I am covering. Lived in Burnley for 20 odd years. Worked at Blackburn Rovers for 6 months. It's like going to be like going home for me. And talking about going home,
it's coming home. It's coming. Football's coming home. It's coming.
I don't know if we got a World Cup song this year. I've not heard any.
Yes, apparently, Badil and Skinner have re-released.
Oh yes,
It's Coming Home, but they're. I don't think it's the official one, but
Well,
we'll
can
see.
I just say,
Thanks for having me, though, Chris.
You did say that. Let me get rid of you because people can only see you. There we go. You did say that Wales had released a World Cup song, and I'm pleased to say I've been able to get it. And this was an old one that's been redone as well. But this is the Welsh World Cup song. I hope there's no Welshman in. Do you know how Welshmen find sheep in long grass? Irresistible. Anyway.
You know what, Chris? That's one of your best ones. That is one of your best ones. I love it. Love that.
Oh, come on, Newport. Fuck off. We got Where can people find you, Dan?
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the main social media. Search Turf Moorhouse or Turf Moorhouse TV, and you'll find us there. We'll be covering the World Cup as well as, obviously, I think everybody else potentially. Looking forward to it. And thanks again for having me, Chris.
Thank you for coming on. It has been, as always, a pleasure, sir. Well, it was for you.
Thank you very much.
For me, if I'm honest with you, but there we go. Take care, buddy. Hey,
cheers,
good luck at the weekend as well.
Got everything crossed. Thanks a lot, pal.
Cheers. Take care, buddy. But can I just say, I don't know if I've got West Ham on tonight. We're doing a match preview. And I am going to slightly explain that I do have a problem with my internet. So for the West Ham, occasionally you might see something appearing up on the screen. I don't know if it will happen very often, but occasionally, things might just pop up from other shows. Bring on Jake. That's what I say. He's 15. I can have him.
Don't forget, he's called the Velvetizer.
Oh, I'm going to write yes. At 15, what a name. The Velvetizer. Can you imagine that being your superhero name? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the Velvetizer. Oh,
it's the Velvetizer.
Right, have a good night. Enjoy your show later. And let's get down to 1,000 before the end of the season. So let's get over and get subscribing.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, mate. Take care.
Cheers, all the best, mate. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Yeah, well, I say we could be here till 4 talking England. That is what it is. New Year and Atomic. I love Atomic Kitten. How can you not love Atomic Kitten? Tell me they are. Well, the Atomic Kitten of then. Very nice. Very nice. We got Brendan Rodgers coming up at 7 o'clock on the press review show. I think Brad's going to be joining us for that one. And, well, are we playing it live on the show, of course, Terry? So it's there. What is Atomic Kit? Was that the sheep? No. Guys, look, thanks very much. I am going to be back at 7 with the aforementioned press review show. And then at 8:45, a little bit earlier than normal for, you'll see obvious reasons, 8:45, we'll be doing the West Ham preview, the last game before the aforementioned World Cup. Cannot believe I am saying that, but it is true. But we're doing plenty. We've got quizzes, we've got watch-alongs, we've got everything. Guys, if you haven't already, please do me a huge, huge favour. I would love you forever and a day, as would indeed my little mini-me there. But if you haven't already, please would you subscribe to the channel? I'm trying to get over the 1,500. I've just tipped over it, so if we can get a few more, just because they do go up and down like a bride's knickers on the wedding night. So if you haven't subscribed and you're new and you've enjoyed it, please do. But if you are subscribed, just as important, smash the likes, because what it does, it gets the channel, it helps with the algorithms, and it gets on people's homes pages, so more people see it, and then hopefully more people will subscribe. Look, thanks very much for listening. If you have been on the podcast on Catch Up, thank you very much for watching. As my little mini-me says there, as he's waving, it's time to go. I'll be back at 7. Thank you very much. Thanks to Dan and thanks to Dave. I'll see you later. Good night.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV.